Diaries Chapter 9b. Luckily, her mother turned up within a few moments, looking puzzled. What's going on? The way you raced out, I thought it must be. Her voice trailed off as she saw the dolphin beside the boat. She sighed and shook her head. I should have known. You and dolphins. Then she looked even more puzzled. But how on earth did you know? Have you developed psychic powers all of a sudden? Jody laughed and shook her head. I heard something, a little bump against the side of the boat, and I thought I'd come out and check. But oh, Mom, don't you see? It's Apollo. He's come back. Gina raised her eyebrows, looking skeptical. Sure, that's not just wishful thinking. A bottlenose dolphin looks a lot like any other. Jody pointed at the leaping, racing animal beside the boat. But look at him. He's excited to see me again. A strange dolphin wouldn't be acting like that, would he? Gina thought about it. She walked closer to the side, grasped the metal railing, and leaned over. For a minute, she gazed into the water and listened. When she turned back to her daughter, her face was thoughtful. You're right, she said. He is excited. The noises he's making. Well, I wouldn't want to swear to it. I'd really want to be able to listen to the tape again and not rely on memory. But it does remind me. Remind you of what? Jody demanded, ready to burst with impatience. A few years ago, I did some work with a couple of captive dolphins known as George and Marta. Her mother explained. Marta was sent away for a while, and George was very unhappy about her. She was brought back, but before George had seen her, before she was returned to the tank, he began this excited vocalizing. It was as if somehow he already knew she had returned. Gina smiled at Jody. Maybe Apollo's just happy to see you, she said lightly. Jody frowned. Apollo might be happy to see her, but that wasn't the whole story. She remembered the way the other dolphins had bumped against the boat. And she had an idea. Do you dolphins have a good sense of smell? She asked. No, Gina replied, sounding surprised. They probably can't smell at all. Certainly not the way land animals do. Oh, said Jody, disappointed. She had thought about the way dogs know if other dogs have been nearby, and she had wondered if Apollo could possibly have picked up some traces that would tell him other dolphins, maybe his friends, had been around Dolphin Dreamer recently. But now she realized that smelling anything underwater is pretty unlikely. But Gina went on. They certainly have a sense of taste, and that probably makes up for the lack of smell. Studies have shown that they can sense even very tiny amounts of chemicals in water and tell the difference between them. Jody remembered that the dolphin's skin produced an oil to help them glide through the water. She wondered if any of that oil might still be on the side of the boat where the other dolphins had bumped it the day before. It was possible that Apollo could taste the oil and recognize that it came from one of his friends. He might be desperately asking her where they'd gone, if only she could tell. Jody, what's on your mind? Gina asked, looking puzzled. Jody was just about to explain when she had a brilliant idea. She caught her breath. Mum, where's Dr. Taylor? I don't know, her mother replied, looking even more puzzled. Probably in his cabin. Why? Jody, what's going on? I've got to talk to him. It's really important, Jody cried. Then she began to scramble down the hatch. She didn't want to waste any more time. It was important to act quickly before Apollo left again. She had to find out if her idea would work. Jody found Dr. Jefferson Taylor relaxing in the main cabin, sipping from a tall glass of iced tea while he paged through a magazine for coin collectors. He wore a faded navy blue t-shirt which was stretched a little too tightly across his bulging middle, and his baggy shorts revealed hairy, knobby knees. Dr. Taylor, she cried excitedly, I want to talk to you. Do you? Why? Dr. Taylor clutched his magazine and peered nervously over it, as if expecting trouble. Jody took a deep breath. I wanted to ask if you could still track down that group of dolphins. Dr. Taylor looked surprised at Jody's interest after her earlier disapproval. The one I tagged yesterday. Yes, of course, he replied. They can't possibly have travelled out of the range yet. In fact, I was just about to check their whereabouts. He laid the magazine aside and stood up. Great! Jody cried. She thought quickly. Dr. Taylor, do you think when you use your equipment to track them down, could you mark their position on the navigation chart? Then Harry could sail there. You'd have to keep tracking since dolphins don't stay in one spot for long. But could we? Jody, what are you trying to set up? It was her father's voice. Jody turned to see both her parents staring at her in some bewilderment. Brittany was standing there too, her face hard and malicious. Isn't it obvious? Brittany spoke up, before Jody had a chance to answer. She thinks this is her expedition. You guys should hear the junk she tells me about how much she knows, how Dolphin Universe was all her idea, and about all the work she's done to make it happen. She thinks she knows everything. Now she's decided that she's the boss. My dad won't go where I want, but if Jody asks him to change course, he'll pop right to it. Jody was stunned by the hateful words pouring out of Brittany. Surely her parents couldn't believe what Brittany was saying. She looked desperately at their faces as they listened. Gina turned to her daughter, her expression serious. Okay, Brittany, let's hear Jody's side of the story. Well, Jody, it's not true, Jody said hotly. Then maybe you should tell us exactly what did happen, said Craig gently. His normally easygoing face was unusual serious. That's all for chapter 9b.